Hey everybody, I hope you're having a great day. Today we're going to be talking, this is Nick again. Today we're going to be talking about communication. So this is dealing with chapter 8 of Chester's book on fire. And we're just going to jump right into it. I'm sure most of you in your workspace or in other contexts have either dealt with really effective communicators or really poor communicators. And you'll see through this slide deck that both can have a positive and a negative impact. So let's go ahead and get going on this. So, first of all, why communication matters. First of all, poor communication flat out kills culture. It is one of the number one things that people complain about when they're complaining about the places they work is either a lack of communication, poor communication, or no communication. And so people who work in an organization, one, they want to be heard, but two, they want to be informed. And so that's a really a big killer there. When information doesn't flow, really it makes people feel like they aren't a part of the workplace. It again disrupts the culture. It can deteriorate rapidly, right? And ambiguity, when you talk about no information, it leaves a opening for ambiguity. And then you get a lot of water cooler talk and a lot of people, rumors happening. And so it's the foundation of trust. It really is where trust begins in an organization. Again, here, employees who feel kept in the dark become disengaged, suspicious, and disconnected from the mission. Especially when you start talking about, which we'll get into in a couple of slides here, when we talk about change. When change is happening and there's no communication happening, I can just think of so many opportunities or so many examples of organizations I've worked with where upper management was not communicating what was happening, particularly when you think of the crash of 2008 or back in my day in 99 during the dot-com bubble, or even going back further than that. Who's getting laid off? Are we getting laid off? Are we closing branches? Nobody's telling anybody anything. You start to come up with worst case scenarios, and it just creates an absolutely toxic culture. Solution, clear, straightforward communication at every level. And I'm not saying you have to tell everybody everything, but you need to keep the people who need to be informed informed. So, and here we go. Here are the three types of information flow. Really, the first ones need to know. Essential operational information employees have to perform their job, right? I need to know this to get my work done, right? So if there's potential opportunities, not opportunities, if there's potential discussions of our branches being shut and I'm a customer focused, a customer forward facing employee, I need to know this so I can keep my customers aware of what's going on. So there's also job specific training, safety procedures. What do I need to make sure that I'm keeping my employees safe, right? I need to know that information. Performance expectations. If you're not telling me what success looks like in my position, there's going to be trouble. And then just daily operational details. I should know. So that's what I need to know. Again, what do I need to know? What I should know: company history and values, organizational structure, mission and vision, public information and news, right? Those are the things I should know. Now, I might find those out from the organization, uh, or I might go out and seek that information out on my own. Better to hear that should know stuff from the organization because who knows what's happening on the internet? Who knows what's happening with AI? Who knows what's happening, with suspicious or kind of not necessarily fact-checked websites. So, really need to know what's going on. And as a new employee, especially, what are the things I should know as a new employee? Okay. And then the things that I want to know. I want to know as an employee. I want to know strategic shifts. What's happening? Where are we now going? When Amazon decided to go brick and mortar and purchase Whole Foods, the Whole Foods employees really wanted to know, okay, where are we going with Amazon? Amazon's an online shopping platform. Are we going online? How's that possible with fresh Whole Foods? And from the Amazon people perspective, what do you mean we're going brick and mortar? Right? What does that shift look like? So it's really important for employers to make sure that their employees are well aware of the things that are happening from a strategic perspective because they want to know process improvements. What are we doing to improve our operations? Challenges and setbacks. How is our money flow, right? How's cash flow? What do our revenues look like? And then future plans and opportunities. Are we looking to grow? Are we looking to size down? Okay. These are all the things. So the three types, the things I need to know, the things I should know, and the things I want to know as an employee. Um, I talked just a second ago about this. Change communication is essential. Probably when it comes to information, open communication, this is probably one of the things, one, where if you do it well, change goes well. If you do it poorly, you can crash a change initiative. So again, it really comes down to, I love Chester's change is a term applied to information about what the company is doing differently today than they did yesterday, right? So what are we doing different today than we did yesterday, right? Uh, it's all about uh, employees wanting to know about the shifts. Again, if you leave uh, ambiguity, if you bring ambiguity into play here because you haven't informed your staff what's happening with the change, one, you're not going to have an effective change strategy. You're not going to move your employees to change. Well, that's one thing. Two, you could potentially get people subverting the change because they don't know what's going on. Am I going to get laid off? Well, if I'm going to get laid, they automatically go to worst case scenario. If I'm going to get laid off, well, then I'm going to have mine. And then they're going to do whatever they can to subvert the change that you're looking to do. Uh, Anxiety is one of the worst things that your employees can feel, right? When they're anxious about their jobs, when they're anxious about how their clients are being treated, when they're anxious about anything that's occurring within their organization, their productivity's down, basically everything's down. Okay, you gotta fill the void of or I'm sorry, you can't fill the void, right? You have to try and fill the void with effective communication. So, and going back, there shouldn't be a void. Because if you open up a void, if you're not telling your staff what's going on, if you create a void here, what's going to fill it is angst, uh, uh, hate sometimes, um, a desire to leave, and even worse, a desire to subvert the change, right? And so we don't want that. So again, particularly when it comes to change, you have to over communicate it. Okay. Here it is right here. Kind of this is at the danger of darkness, right? If you leave your employees in the dark, you're going to erode trust. Rumors and misinformation spread rapidly, particularly in a large organization. It can go from a little campfire to a forest fire in minutes, right? And so it's really important that you don't let those rumors spread. And the only way to not spread rumors is to tell people the truth. Now, you can't always be open about every single thing to every single person, like I said, but you need to keep them aware enough to minimize what they're saying around the water cooler. Employee engagement plummets if you keep people in the dark. And when employee engagement plummets, basically, again, you get subversion. Productivity, morale suffer. Talented employees, particularly the people you don't want to lose, the talented employees, they wind up leaving. Okay. So transparency isn't optional. I love that. Like I would put that on my wall. Transparency isn't optional, it's essential, particularly when things are going awry, when things are going crazy. You got to keep people informed. Uh, I love this. I always used to say as a manager, I have an open door policy, and everybody thinks that's a great thing, right? The theory of an open door policy, it's the quickest way to facilitate transparent culture. And it can also be uh, uh, just declaring it isn't enough, right? It can also be a way for employees to go, I thought you said I could come talk to you at any time. Well, no, you can't come to me at any time, right? So here's three kind of things that you need to think about. One, you have to define your policy clearly. Employees need to understand what open door means. Is it means you can just barge in while I'm in a meeting? Does it mean if I'm on the phone, you can, or does it mean that if you shoot me an email or send me a text, we can set a meeting? Or does it mean I'm out in the bullpen as opposed to being in my office? Employees need to know, right? So if you tell them, hey, I've got an open door policy, and then every time I come in to meet you, you're in a meeting with somebody or you're on the phone with somebody, that's not my expectation. We need to set realistic expectations for this, okay? We set the ground rules, right? Establish clear expectations about when and how employees should utilize the policy. If you've got two people bickering about something, or you've got an employee who doesn't understand their withholding on their paycheck, and they come barging into your office, or every payday they come talk to you about, hey, why is this? That's probably not effective use of your time or their time. And so you need to set these ground rules. And then finally, follow through. Leaders have to demonstrate the genuine accessibility and responsiveness. Right? That's how you build credibility with your staff, is when you say, hey, I've got an open door policy, then you better follow through with it, right? Based on the clear definition of it and the ground rules. Now, for me as a leader, I always spent most of my time out in the bullpen with my staff, or just mingling about with them, listening to what was going on, not eavesdropping, but just listening. I loved the buzz. I loved the buzz of the bullpen. And so for me, that was everything. I rarely spent time in my office unless I was doing one-on-ones, or unless I was in a meeting with my boss, or maybe a client or something like that. And so I always tried to be out with my staff. And again, there was really then no need for an open door policy because I was always with them. And so just one of the things to think about, right? Again, define the term clearly, set the ground rules, and you got to follow through as a manager. Uh, 10 tips for maximizing communication, right? So Chester, when you read the book, he's going to define these 10 tips. So we're just going to run right through them. So tips 1 through 3, that's the foundation of dialogue, right? So for people who are concerned, especially staff members who have concerns, speak up, right? Openly share your concerns with people as they arise. From a management perspective, from a management perspective, I need to speak up when I've got concerns about what my boss says. I need to speak up, right? Address issues promptly so they don't fester. Okay. Get to the point. Engage employees in straightforward and direct conversation. This is probably one of the hardest things that I see managers work through. It's hard for them to be straightforward. They're always, especially when it comes to crisis management, they're always trying to beat around the bush. They don't want People want to be talked to, uh again, like adults, in a very direct manner, right? Avoid, circuitous language and corporate jargon, right? Tell it like it is. Tell it like it is. Okay. And then the third one is give full attention. I always say the thing that a lot of managers lack is that ability to be present, right? Particularly in a crisis situation. It's hard for them to be present when an employee is voicing their concerns, because they're probably thinking about some of the things as well. And so give your employees full attention. Be 100% present when you're listening to their concerns, when we're talking about either change management, crisis management, or just anything in general. Be present. 4 through 6, honesty and context. Ask open-ended questions. When people are encouraged to speak freely rather than give simple yes or no responses, it's going to make genuine dialogue. It's going to create the dialogue that is much more genuine, and it reveals deeper insights and deeper issues. Give the straight scoop. Again, don't hide anything from employees. Eventually, they're going to find out. Everybody finds out everything. So don't tiptoe around things. Again, tell it like it is. This is my big thing. Begin with why, right? That's a Simon Sinek book. Begin with why, or start with why is his book. Why are we doing this, right? That's where right? Giving the rationale behind things is important. This is, I'll almost open every discussion I have is, hey folks, here's why we're here today. Here's why this is important. Here's why I think you need to hear this. right? And then I explain the why. And then a lot of times the what and the how just come easily. It's typically the why that most people struggle with, and the why is typically what most people want to hear. Okay. So that's 4 through 6. And here it is again. Context creates buy-in, right? The power of why. That is my man Simon Sinek right there. Anything you can read from him, read it. Any of his TED Talks, any videos that he puts out, watch them, right? So why does context create buy-in? And context is the why. Builds intellectual and emotional investment, right? If I believe in the why, if I believe why we're doing something, I'm going to typically follow through on the how and the what. Reduces resistance to change. Again, if I understand the why behind the change, I'm probably going to buy into it more. Empowers employees to make the aligned decisions. If you just say, go do this, I'm going to be like, okay, so why? Or who are you to tell me to do that, right? Instead of saying, hey, here's why I need you to do this. Here's why this client is so important. Here's why we want to do this, right? Then, and this is why it's tied to our mission, vision, and values or our corporate strategy. Then employees can actually make the line decisions with corporate. It demonstrates respect. Again, an employer, a manager, a leader that doesn't respect their staff enough to tell them why things are happening or why things need to happen this way, just that's not the way a leader should act. And then it creates opportunities for valuable feedback. Maybe your employees know something you don't know. Maybe if you tell them why they're doing something, maybe they have some insight on that. So that's a good thing to look through. Um, Tip 7 through 8, engagement and access. Ask what they think, right? Don't just go, here, do this, or here, this is why we're doing this, or here, this is what we're doing. No. What do you think about this? This is the next step in the evolution of our strategy. What do you think about? Give me some insight on. You're talking to the clients. What do you think your clients might think about this? Maybe let's do a forum with your clients, right? And then keep your door, particularly when it comes time for change management. The open door policy needs to be a wide open door policy. Okay, a wide open door policy. Staff need to understand that you care, particularly when it comes to crisis management, particularly when it comes to change management. And then 9 and 10, individual focus and continuous improvement. Manage individuals, not groups, right? Differentiation, treat people as individuals. This is one of the things that took me teaching elementary school for a year. That's where I learned differentiation. Everybody, every person in your organization, every person that is in your care as a leader needs something different from you. Know that. Know that and buy into that and live into that. And then be ready to course correct, right? If we're thinking about continuous improvement, your first shot is typically not going to be your best shot a lot of times. And so you got to understand that sometimes we need to do course correction and make some changes. The individual connection beyond mass messages, right? One-on-one coaching, particularly if you've got, if somebody is anxious about maybe they're not performing at the way they should be performing, have a one-on-one session with them. You should be doing this on a weekly basis anyway with your team, right? And so again, know this as well. Each employee has different communication preferences. Some of you like to be emailed, some of you like to be text, some of you like to be connected through Canvas. Personal circumstance affect how messages are received. You don't know what's going on with somebody's life at home, and so just know that everybody's going to relate to each message differently. Individual recognition is more powerful than group praise. Tell somebody, one, recognize that somebody's done something good and tell them. Tell them that they've done something good. Don't always just recognize somebody when they do something bad, right? Try and recognize individuals as they do good things. And then tailored conversations yield way better outcomes than just generic announcements. Okay. Here's how we build a transparent culture. The four kind of the four activities. Got to have open communication, right? Open communicate, shared information. You got to build trust, right? Consistent transparency creates credibility and confidence. Employee engagement. Informed employees become invested participants. In fact, during change management, if you get the employee buy-in, they're going to actually drive the change that you're looking to get done, right? You step back, let them do the things that they need to do, and you will see success. And then that employee engagement equals organizational success. Some key takeaways. This is our last slide. Communication drives culture, without a doubt. You've worked, if you haven't worked, you know people who communicate effectively, you know people who communicate poorly. If they're particularly in a leadership position, they drive your culture, right? You can either be a culture of transparency and trust, or you can be a culture of divisiveness and ambiguity. Three information levels, right? Employees need to know things, employees should know things, and there's a lot of things employees want to know. Give up information. Practical application. Chester's 10 tips provide actionable strategies. Use them. And then individually matters. Don't communicate to the group. Communicate to the person. You will see such a huge difference. And as a employee, again, think about if your manager, if your leader took these same steps and treated you all as individuals and not just a collective. Think about how much more bought in you would be to your organization. So communication's key, folks. It's huge. It's important. It's just to me one of the foundational activities of leadership and culture development. So, okay, so that was that. I hope you all have a great day, and we will be talking to you soon. Ciao.